My wife secretly stole everything. So I took everything back. She lost everything. 20 years of marriage. 20 years of love, struggles, joy, and compromises. Or so I thought. Our anniversary. I had booked the best table at the restaurant where we once celebrated our engagement. Rented an entire floor. Live music, candlelight, her favorite white wine. I wanted this night to be perfect. That morning, we renewed our vows. I looked into her eyes and believed every word. And then I heard it. I had only stepped away to use the restroom, but as I passed by a closed staff room, I froze. I knew that voice. I've already transferred most of it to accounts he can't access. Once we sell the house, I'm filing for divorce and taking the kids to California. It was my wife's voice. My wife. I stood there, heart pounding so loud I was sure the whole restaurant could hear it. Are you sure he won't suspect anything? A man's voice asked. Her brother. Oh, please, John. You know him. He still thinks I love him. I closed my eyes. Inhale. Exhale. 20 years. I walked back to the table. Smiled. Raised my glass. To us. She smiled back, having no idea that I already knew. But this morning, she was screaming outside my house. The next morning, I woke up early. The sun was barely rising, casting a soft orange glow through the curtains. I could hear the faint sounds of birds outside. A peaceful morning. A morning that should have felt normal. But nothing was normal anymore. I sat up, running a hand through my hair. My wife, no, that woman, was still asleep beside me, her breath slow and steady, like she hadn't just plotted to destroy my life hours ago. I took a deep breath and got out of bed. There was no hesitation. No doubt. I had work to do. By the time she woke up, I was already in the kitchen, making coffee. She walked in, stretching, giving me that sleepy, practiced smile. Morning, babe, she murmured, wrapping her arms around me from behind. I almost laughed. Instead, I turned, kissed her forehead, and handed her a cup of coffee. Morning. I watched her sip it, completely unaware. She had no idea. No idea that I had already pulled my credit reports. No idea that I had checked our joint accounts the second we got home last night. No idea that I had called my lawyer before sunrise. No idea that I had set a meeting with the bank to freeze our assets. She thought she was in control. She thought I was clueless. She thought she had won. I smiled. Let her enjoy her little victory. Because today was the beginning of her downfall. By mid-morning, I was sitting in my lawyer's office. A sleek, modern space, all glass and dark wood. My lawyer, Daniel, was a shark in a suit, precisely the kind of man I needed. He skimmed through the account statements I had printed, eyebrows raising slightly. She's been moving money for months, he said, flipping through the pages. Looks like she's been careful not to take too much at once. But he smirked, tapping a line with his pen. She wasn't careful enough. I leaned forward. Explain. Daniel turned the page, pointing to a transaction from 2 weeks ago. She transferred a large sum to an account under her brother's name. That's fraud. A slow smile spread across my face. Tell me more. By noon, I had frozen every account she had access to. By 2 p.m., I had changed every password, revoked every financial privilege, and secured my assets. By 5 p.m., I had already started the process of selling the house on my terms. And by 7 p.m., she was standing outside my house screaming. I opened the door slowly, leaning against the frame as I sipped my whiskey. Her face was twisted in fury, eyes wild. What the hell did you do? I took another sip. Good evening to you too. She clenched her fists. Don't play games with me. Why are the accounts frozen? Why can't I access my money? I exhaled slowly, savoring this moment. My money, I corrected. Her breath hitched. W what? I stepped forward, lowering my voice just enough to send a chill down her spine. You thought you could betray me, steal from me, and then just walk away? I tilted my head. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Her face drained of color. Checkmate. But this was just the beginning. She stood frozen, her lips slightly parted, as if her brain couldn't process what was happening. For the first time in years, I saw fear in her eyes. Not anger, not irritation. Fear. W, what do you mean? She stammered. This is just a mistake, right? Some banking error. I smiled. A slow, cold smile. No mistake, I said simply. I just decided to take back what's mine. Her breath hitched. But I need that money. The house is being sold, I finished for her. On my terms. She stumbled back like I had slapped her. No, you can't. It's our home. I tilted my head, feigning confusion. Funny, I thought you were planning to sell it anyway. You know, before filing for divorce and running off to California with my kids. Her face paled. You heard that? I took a lazy sip of my drink, letting the silence drag. Then I leaned in just slightly. Every single word. She sucked in a sharp breath. The realization was sinking in. The power dynamic had shifted. She wasn't the one in control anymore. I was. She tried to push past me into the house, but I stepped in front of the door. Move. I raised an eyebrow. Or what? She let out a frustrated growl, raking a hand through her perfect, salon-styled hair. You're being ridiculous. This is my home too. I shrugged. Not anymore. She glared at me, eyes burning with rage. I'll fight this. I chuckled. Go ahead. My lawyer's better than yours. She let out a bitter laugh. You think you're so clever, don't you? I didn't answer. Just let her drown in her own desperation. Then she made her biggest mistake. You can't do this to me, she hissed. I gave you everything. I was the reason you succeeded. You were nothing without me. I went still. She had no idea how badly she just screwed herself. I took a slow step forward, my voice dropping to a near whisper. Nothing? I echoed. That's funny. She shifted uneasily. I let out a low chuckle. Because the real reason you wanted to leave wasn't because of love lost. I made air quotes. It wasn't because you were unhappy. Her jaw tightened. I smirked. It was because I finally stopped letting you control me. She didn't deny it. Couldn't. You saw me getting stronger. You saw me becoming independent. You saw me thriving without you pulling the strings. I shook my head. And that scared you, didn't it? She turned away sharply. You're delusional. I crossed my arms. Am I? She swallowed hard but didn't respond. I took a step back and gestured toward the driveway. Leave. She whirled around. Excuse me. I nodded toward her car. Go. You're not welcome here anymore. Her hands clenched into fists. Then, like the manipulator she was, she changed tactics. Her shoulders slumped. Tears welled in her eyes. I made a mistake, she whispered. Please. We can fix this. I tilted my head. Are you asking for forgiveness? She nodded quickly. Yes. I was stupid. I let my brother get in my head. I don't want to lose you. She was good. Too bad I was better. I leaned in, staring directly into her tear-filled eyes. Then I whispered two words that shattered her world. Too late. Her breath caught. I stepped back and slowly, calmly, shut the door in her face. And as I locked it, I heard the first real, genuine sob break from her lips. For the first time, she realized she had lost. But the best part? Her nightmare was just beginning. I didn't bother looking through the peephole. I didn't need to. I could hear her. Her breath was ragged, uneven. A choked sob broke through her lips, but she quickly stifled it. No. She wasn't ready to break, not yet. She still thought she had a way out. A loophole. A second chance. But she didn't. I turned away from the door, heading to the kitchen. Calm. Steady. Pouring myself another drink like I hadn't just ripped her entire plan apart. Because for the first time in 20 years, I was free. 15 minutes passed. Then 30. She was still outside. At first, she kept knocking. Then it turned into yelling. Then she started calling my phone. Over and over. Blocked. Then came the texts. We need to talk. Don't do this. Think about the kids. I chuckled at that last one. The kids? Oh, you mean the ones she was planning to steal from me? The ones she was planning to take across the country without my consent? Funny how they only mattered to her now. Then, finally, the breaking point. I'll tell them you were abusive. That's right. I'll make sure you never see them again. You think you're in control? Watch me. And there it was. The moment she dropped the act. The moment the mask completely slipped. For years, I had ignored the little things. The manipulations. The gaslighting. The way she twisted every argument until I was the one apologizing. I let her rewrite the narrative of our marriage. But this was her final mistake. I smiled, taking another slow sip of my drink. Because while she was outside, screaming threats, she had no idea that I was already ahead of her. At exactly 10:15 p.m., my phone buzzed. Not from her. From my lawyer. It's done. Custody case filed. Evidence submitted. I exhaled slowly, tension melting from my shoulders. Because while she was outside trying to destroy me, she had no idea I had already built the perfect defense. Every transaction she had made? Logged. Every secret account? Traced. Every message? every single threat she had sent me, screenshot and backed up. She had no case. But I did. And when the judge saw it, she wouldn't just lose access to my money. She'd lose everything. At 10:30, the knocking stopped. At 10:45, I peeked through the blinds. Her car was gone. But I wasn't relieved. No. I knew her too well. She wasn't done yet. I checked my phone one last time before heading upstairs. No new messages. No calls. Silence. But somehow, I knew. The real war was just beginning. The silence didn't last long. By morning, she was back. Not at my house. No, she wasn't that stupid. Instead, she went straight to the one place she knew could still be manipulated. My kids. I was halfway through my morning coffee when my phone buzzed. A message from my oldest daughter, Emily. Dad, Mom just picked us up early from school. She says we're going on a special trip. She won't tell us where. I felt the blood drain from my face. She wasn't waiting for the court to decide. She was trying to run. I dropped my coffee mug and grabbed my keys. Dialed my lawyer as I sprinted to the car. Daniel picked up on the first ring. She's taking the kids, I said, starting the engine. His tone immediately turned sharp. How long ago? Maybe 20 minutes. They were at school, she picked them up early. A pause. Then, she's violating the custody hold. That's kidnapping. I already knew that. I was just hoping it wouldn't come to this. Call the cops, Daniel said. Right now. I didn't hesitate. 10 minutes later, I was pulling into the school parking lot, tires screeching. The principal was already outside, looking shaken. She said it was a family emergency, she stammered. I thought. I didn't have time for apologies. I checked my phone again. Nothing. I dialed Emily. Straight to voicemail. Damn it. Then, finally, a new message. Not from Emily. From my wife. You should have just let me leave quietly. No? You'll never see them again. I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles turned white. You just signed your own death warrant. Because what she didn't realize was that, by sending that text, she just gave me proof. By the time I got to the police station, they were already moving. The officer took one look at the message and nodded. That's enough, he said. We'll issue an alert. She won't get far. I exhaled. What do I do now? He glanced up. You wait. And so I did. But I wasn't worried. Because I knew something she didn't. Her bank accounts? Frozen. Her secret stash of stolen money? Locked. Her ability to disappear? Gone. She thought she was running. But in reality, she was already trapped. I didn't go home. I sat in that police station, staring at my phone, waiting for the inevitable. My fingers hovered over Emily's contact, debating whether to call again. But I already knew the answer. She wouldn't pick up. Not because she didn't want to, but because her mother wouldn't let her. The officer came back 30 minutes later. We have a hit, he said, eyes sharp. Her car was spotted at a gas station off the highway. I stood up so fast my chair nearly tipped over. Where? He showed me a map. A tiny town 2 hours away. She's trying to cross state lines, he said. But she doesn't have the resources. No money. No plane tickets. No fake identities. She wasn't running away. She was stalling. I clenched my jaw. Then we catch her before she figures out a plan B. The drive felt endless. I had a police escort, flashing lights leading the way, but it still wasn't fast enough. Every second, my mind replayed the worst-case scenario. Would she try to disappear into some hidden town? Would she drag my kids into her twisted lies, convincing them I was the villain? Would she? My phone rang. I grabbed it instantly. Emily. I hit answer. Emily? Where are you? Her voice was shaky. Dad? Relief hit me like a truck. I'm here, sweetheart. I'm coming to get you. She sniffled. Mom's acting weird. She keeps checking her phone, like she's waiting for something. Of course she was. She knew the second those accounts froze that she was screwed. Listen to me, I said, keeping my voice calm. Are you somewhere safe? A pause. Then, we're still in the car. Mom's getting gas. Good. That meant they hadn't left yet. Stay put. Don't say anything to her. Just act normal, okay? Oh, okay. The call ended. I exhaled. Almost there. 15 minutes later, we pulled into the gas station. There she was, standing by the pump, phone in hand, looking desperate. And then she saw the police cars. Her face drained of color. I stepped out of the car, locking eyes with her from across the lot. For a second, just a second, I saw it. Pure, unfiltered panic. She knew. She had lost. Step away from the vehicle. The officer's voice was firm, controlled. My wife, ex-wife, soon enough, dropped her phone, hands shaking. She turned toward the car, probably thinking of grabbing the kids, using them as leverage. But Emily stepped out first. She looked right at me. Then she ran. I caught her, holding her tight as she started sobbing into my chest. That was the moment I knew. My kids were never hers to take. And no matter what she tried next, she was never getting them back. She didn't fight when the officers surrounded her, didn't scream, didn't argue. She just stood there, hands trembling, watching me hold our daughter. And for the first time since this entire nightmare started, she looked small, like she finally understood that this was over. The officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, you're being detained for violating a court-ordered custody hold." She blinked, her mind clearly racing for a way out. "There's been a mistake," she said, her voice uneven. "This is all a misunderstanding." The officer wasn't buying it. "We have the text messages. We have the financial records. You tried to flee across state lines with minors." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. She had no response, because she had no defense. Emily gripped my shirt tighter. "Are we going home now?" she whispered. I squeezed her shoulders. "Yes, sweetheart. We're going home." From the corner of my eye, I saw my son, Noah, step out of the car. He was only 12, but the look on his face, that was pure disgust. Not fear, not sadness. Disgust. He knew exactly what his mother had tried to do, and he wanted nothing to do with her. When she saw his face, she actually flinched. That's when the tears finally came. "Baby," she choked out. "You know I was just trying to protect you, right?" Noah didn't say a word, didn't even look at her. He just walked straight to me and stood by my side. That silence, it destroyed her. The officers cuffed her. She gasped, as if it was only just now sinking in. She looked around, panicked, searching for someone, anyone, to save her. Her eyes landed on me. "Please," she whispered. "Don't do this." I stared at her for a long, long moment. Then I said the only thing left to say. "You did this to yourself." The officer led her to the squad car. She didn't fight it, didn't yell, didn't make some grand speech. She just folded, like she knew she had lost everything. As they drove her away, I felt Emily squeeze my hand. "She's not coming back, is she?" she asked softly. I knelt to meet her eye level. "No, sweetheart," I said. "She's not." Noah exhaled, like he had been holding his breath for months. "Good," he muttered. And for the first time in a long, long time, we were finally free. The ride home was quiet. Not the heavy, suffocating silence we had lived with for years. No, this was peaceful. Emily leaned against the car window, exhausted. Noah had his arms crossed, staring ahead. But there was no tension, no fear, just relief. The house felt different when we stepped inside. Lighter, like a weight had been lifted the second she was gone. Emily hesitated near the door. "Is she gonna come back?" I shook my head. "Not if I can help it." Noah exhaled sharply. "So what happens now?" I gave him the only answer that mattered. "We move on." The next few days were a blur of legal meetings, phone calls, and explaining everything to the judge. My lawyer, Daniel, was relentless. With the police report, financial records, and, most importantly, her attempted kidnapping, the case wasn't just in my favor. It was over before it even started. Full custody. No visitation. And her? She wasn't just losing her kids. She was losing everything. The final court date came quicker than expected. She sat across from me, looking like a ghost of the woman I used to know. Her once perfect hair was unkempt. Her expensive clothes looked wrinkled, like she hadn't slept in days. She wouldn't even meet my eyes, because she knew. She had nothing left. The judge's voice was firm. "Based on the evidence provided, the court grants full custody to the father. The mother will not have visitation rights at this time." She flinched. The words hit her harder than any argument we'd ever had. And then, just for a second, she looked at me, like she wanted me to save her. But I didn't, because she had never once thought about saving me. When it was over, we walked out of that courthouse into the sunlight. Emily slipped her hand into mine. Noah walked beside me, shoulders straight. And for the first time in years, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. I wasn't waiting for the next fight, for the next betrayal, for the next time I'd have to fix the mess she left behind. Because this time, she wasn't my problem anymore. We were finally free. The days after the court ruling felt strange. Not bad, not painful, just empty. For 20 years, my life had been tangled with hers. Every decision, every plan, every damn thought had involved her. And now, she was gone. For good. I kept expecting my phone to ring, for her to text, begging for another chance, for her to show up at my door, making excuses, swearing she had changed. But she didn't, because she couldn't. Her accounts were empty. Her lawyer had dropped her. She had no home, no car, no job. She had spent so long controlling everything that she had never prepared for the day when she lost it all. One evening, as I was making dinner, Emily wandered into the kitchen. She leaned against the counter, watching me. "What's up, sweetheart?" I asked. She hesitated, biting her lip. "Do you ever feel bad for her?" I set the knife down, turned to face her. "Why do you ask?" She shifted her weight. "I mean, she's still our mom, right?" I sighed. "Because, yeah, that was the one thing I could never change. She made her choices," I said gently, "and now she has to live with them." Emily nodded slowly, but I could tell she was still processing it. So I rested a hand on her shoulder. "You're allowed to feel bad for her." She looked up at me. "Do you?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. Then I shook my head. "No," I admitted. "I don't." Because the truth was, she had never felt bad for us. Not when she drained the accounts. Not when she lied to the kids. Not when she tried to take them away from me. She didn't deserve pity. She deserved exactly what she got. And now, she had to live with that. Alone. A month passed. Then two. No calls. No messages. It was like she had vanished. And honestly, I was fine with that. Life finally started feeling normal again. The kids were happier. Noah got into basketball. Emily started baking more. The house, once filled with tension, was now filled with laughter. For the first time in years, we weren't walking on eggshells. We were living. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. I pressed the phone to my ear. Silence. Then, a shaky breath. "I lost everything," she whispered. I didn't say anything. She swallowed hard. "I have nothing left. No money. No home. No family." I waited. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. "Can I see them?" I closed my eyes. For a split second, I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered everything. The stolen money. The lies. The attempted kidnapping. And most of all, I remembered Emily and Noah's faces when they realized their own mother had tried to rip them away. I took a slow breath. Then I gave her my final answer. "No." A sharp inhale. But, click. I hung up. And just like that, she was gone. For good. That night, as I tucked Emily into bed, she looked up at me. "Was that Mom?" she asked softly. I nodded. She hesitated. "Did she say anything?" I smiled gently. "Not anything that matters." Emily held my gaze for a moment. Then she exhaled and closed her eyes. For the first time in a long time. She slept peacefully. And for the first time in my life, I did too. Because this time, I wasn't looking back. The past was over. And our real life? It was just beginning.